All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Right now, we're seeing a massive cost of living squeeze happening all across Canada. You know the drill. Groceries, heating, property taxes, it's all just creeping up. And if you're approaching retirement, that plan that looked perfect on paper a few years ago might suddenly be feeling, well, a little tight. Plus, just telling someone to save more isn't exactly a hopeful solution, right? That's exactly why so many folks are turning their attention outside the country, looking for a real way to escape those rising costs.
But that brings us to the big million-dollar question. Does living outside Canada actually make retirement more affordable? Now, in this explainer, we're not looking at this through rose-colored vacation glasses. We're treating this as a serious, rigorous financial decision. It's really about figuring out if you're genuinely solving an expensive problem or just replacing it with a totally different set of risks.
Okay, let's dive into this because the financial temptation here is huge. Just imagine needing about $5,000 a month in Canadian dollars to live comfortably here at home. Now, imagine taking that exact same lifestyle, maybe even a slightly better one, somewhere else, but for just $3,500. I mean, that difference is no joke. You're literally talking about putting $1,500 back in your pocket every single month. And that brings us to this absolutely crucial number, $18,000. That monthly gap, it translates to $18,000 in yearly savings. Think about that. Over a 20 or 30-year retirement, keeping that kind of money invested, instead of just watching it vanish into condo fees and heating bills, can massively extend the lifespan of your entire portfolio. It literally shifts the whole conversation from, can I even afford to retire, to where should I retire? To really unpack this, we've got a structured journey for today. First, we'll look at the cost of living dream, then what a complete system change really means. After that, we'll uncover the hidden taxes and risks, weigh the healthcare and lifestyle factors, and finally, wrap up with the 3-filter framework. Starting right off with Section 1, the cost of living dream and why escaping high costs is so tempting. Wanting to escape Canadian property taxes and soaring housing costs, especially if you're in places like Toronto or Vancouver, is incredibly valid. If housing is eating your budget alive, leaving sounds amazing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the fantasy and the reality. We tend to evaluate this move using our imaginations, right? We picture vacation budgets, warm weather, ocean views, cheap restaurant tabs, but real long-term retirement, that's built on recurring monthly obligations. We're talking health insurance, prescriptions, visa renewals, and emergency planning. And let me tell you, those obligations change the financial picture very, very quickly. Plus, you absolutely have to factor in what I call the setup year. Hearing that rent is cheaper somewhere else is really only half the story. If you try to basically import your Canadian standard of living, big houses with central AC, gated neighborhoods, imported groceries, your costs are going to spike. Add in the deposits, furnishing a whole new place, translating legal documents, paying for administrative fees. Honestly, those savings you were banking on can get devoured almost instantly in that first year. Moving on to Section 2, a complete system change, or what I like to think of as leaving the matrix. So budgeting is one thing, but leaving the country means navigating a massive overarching bureaucracy. Retiring abroad isn't just an extended vacation, it is a fundamental system change. You are entirely unplugging from the Canadian healthcare, legal, banking, tax, and daily living matrix, and you have to plug into a brand new one. You aren't just forwarding your mail, you're literally swapping out the entire infrastructure of your life. To show you how that infrastructure shifts, let's look at your Canadian government benefits. Which ones actually pack their bags and come with you? Well, your CPP is tied to your contribution history, so that's generally payable abroad. But old age security, OAS depends heavily on your residency history and specific tax treaties. And your guaranteed income supplement, the GIS is almost always affected or just completely lost, depending on where you move. A small misunderstanding here doesn't just sting a little, it can completely derail a retirement plan. Let's move to Section 3, hidden taxes and financial risks. This is where the complexities really kick in. So, the crucial point is this. Once you actually declare yourself a non-resident of Canada, you trigger a whole new web of financial rules. Just because your daily expenses drop doesn't mean your tax bill magically drops with them. Suddenly, you might face non-resident withholding taxes on your RRSP, RRIF, and pension payments. And even scarier,
the departure tax. Canada might treat certain non-registered assets as if you sold them the very second you leave, triggering unrealized capital gains. You can literally be slapped with a massive, unexpected tax bill on your way out the door. And don't overlook another invisible threat: currency risk. Think about it. You're probably earning your income in Canadian dollars, but paying for your groceries and rent in a foreign currency. If the Canadian dollar weakens against your new local currency, a budget that felt super comfortable on day one might feel incredibly tight 5 years down the road. Then we hit the banking hurdles. Canada has a really stable, well-regulated financial system, and you might think, hey, I'll just leave my money there. But once you become a non-resident, your own Canadian bank might actually start locking you out. You could suddenly face restricted services, transaction limits, or totally grueling compliance reviews simply because you updated your address to a beach town in Mexico. You absolutely must speak with your bank before you start packing your bags. All right, Section 4, Healthcare and Lifestyle Trade-offs. Let's talk about the emotional side of things. This is where the math on your spreadsheet runs headfirst into the reality of your physical body. Healthcare. We all complain about wait times, sure, but Canadians rely heavily on the stability of our provincial healthcare. And here is the kicker: that coverage does not follow you indefinitely. Every single province has strict limits on how long you can be out of the country while keeping your eligibility. Assuming your coverage will just be there when things go wrong is a super dangerous game to play. Now, yes, a lot of countries offer fantastic, affordable, fast private clinics. But I really want to challenge you with this question. What happens to your healthcare access when you actually start aging? Like, what happens when your private insurance premiums suddenly skyrocket at age 75, or they decide a pre-existing condition is now totally excluded? Good retirement planning isn't just about paying for one cheap procedure today. It's about guaranteeing long-term sustainable access to care. And of course, we have to talk about the lifestyle costs. At first, moving abroad feels like this incredible freedom. But fast forward a bit. The distance from your kids and grandkids, the grueling and expensive long-haul flights, the missed birthdays, the potential social isolation, all of that takes a heavy toll. Because let's be honest, a dirt cheap lifestyle isn't all that valuable if you end up feeling completely cut off from your primary support networks and the people you love. Which brings us to Section 5, the 3-filter framework. Here is your actionable solution to navigate all of this. And this brilliantly illustrates how to actually make sense of this huge decision. Step 1 is the financial filter. You have to run the real numbers, including all those contingencies. Step 2 is the system filter, reviewing your residency, the taxes, the banking rules. And step 3 is the lifestyle filter, honestly assessing your family proximity and social networks. If all 3 of these look solid, then going abroad is a fantastic option. But if even one of those filters gives you pause, the move requires a whole lot more analysis. One of the absolute best ways to test those filters is the trial period. Please, whatever you do, do not sell your house and move permanently right out of the gate. Go spend several months in a real residential neighborhood, not a tourist resort, and do it across different seasons. Keep your home base in Canada for now. This will reveal the true, on-the-ground reality of local administration, grocery costs, and doctor visits, all without the massive risk of a permanent commitment. While you're doing that trial, you need to map your income individually. Looking at your retirement savings as one giant lump sum just isn't going to cut it anymore. You have to treat your CPP, OAS, RRSP, TFSA, and non-registered investments as totally separate streams. Under international rules, every single dollar behaves differently depending on tax treaties and your specific residency status. Which brings us right to the core philosophy of this entire explainer. A well-designed plan doesn't just reduce expenses, it protects benefits, manages taxes, maintains flexibility, and preserves a path back to Canada. Moving abroad shouldn't be a gamble. It should be a carefully calculated optimization strategy that always keeps an escape hatch open if you ever need it. So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on today. After looking at everything, the hidden taxes, the healthcare realities, the potential isolation, the currency risks, is retiring abroad a brilliant opportunity to stretch your savings, or is it a complex risk that is way too easy to underestimate at first glance? Take some time to really reflect on how this applies to you, and always consult a cross-border professional before making a leap. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.